Deleted session, April 18, 1979. Rob noted, "My side hurts because I am afraid all of Jane's work won't be, and isn't, appreciated. Though my eyes isn't involved, my projected biography." Jane read these notes over as me thought for the session at 9:35. I explained that I hated to put her on the spot by asking if I had an ulcer or a hernia, say, or gas or whatever. I realized my doing so frightened her. At the same time, I said I was curious as to whether I did have an ulcer, for instance. Then if so, I could see that I had created that situation in order to contend with certain challenges. She said, "Now, good evening. Pretend that you have two men. One cares little for the opinions of the world. He wants to spend his days in contemplation. He wants the freedom necessary to ask whatever philosophical questions come into his mind. Basically, he cares not a jot for time, as it is generally understood. He does not care for position or power. He only asks to be left alone in his contemplations, and to express these in whatever manner suits his nature. Actually, he is free of sex roles, and refuses stereotypes of any kind. He views cultural and educational establishments with a clear, questioning eye. He cares not a jot for position or for money, but only for the freedom. He wants to study the world and nature, and the nature of men and ideas, and to search from that vantage point for some greater order, and some greater context in which life must reside. Now we have another man who is also contemplative and determined, but this man is pursued by time. He must show that he produces so much work in a given number of hours, so that others will know that he is diligent, and viewed with the good male attributes of a provider. He is very concerned about the opinions of others, and he wants to see the effect of his work upon the establishments of the world. He wants to know where he stands, and he wants to fit a neat category, so that he can say to the world, "If you are a shoemaker, I am something as a definite," or "If you are a professor, I am a writer or an artist, or a..." He wants his contemplation to pay off, and he is very anxious about where his money goes. These two men are one, of course. They represent your own opposing beliefs and feelings. At one time or another, you do not agree or approve of either set, and so you are always berating yourself about being different than you are. The greater portion of your nature belongs to the first man, and the second set of characteristics have been overlaid, so that there is a rub between the two systems of belief and feeling. The two of you, having no children, cannot count upon children to fulfill your dreams, as many do, or to accomplish what you do not accomplish, as many do. Your work is in a way like your marriage. It must satisfy an almost infinite number of requirements and demands. Ralph noted with humor. She said it must give you a sense of belonging, accomplishment, emotional support. At times, exhilaration, be intellectually and emotionally satisfying, giving you financial success and some power in the world. That work, however, is in your case the natural gift of the first man described, and he, it seems, must work under the demands of the second man, taking all of his ideas of time, sexual roles, and social demands into consideration. You are not nearly as free of those as you might suppose, and I have mentioned that before. Moving to this house. Rob noted any house. They said, brought those hidden demands into some prominence. And then the second man's idea of a householder were further laid upon our first man's shoulders. There is nothing wrong, certainly, and much pleasure in taking care of your establishment, but not because you must prove something to yourself or to others. With your projects of the past finished, the man who needed a job had no job. It was as if he were laid off, and immediately had to find a new job. The man approves of creative projects only when he thinks of them as jobs. When they become acceptable as legitimate male pursuits, commercial art is beautiful there, for at one time it allowed you to paint because you were immediately repaid, and that made art legitimate. I am laying it on here, and forgive a bit of gentle sarcasm, but to your Puritan American soul, art for its own sake, or contemplation, still somehow goes against the grain. Your basic personality, the first man is immensely pleased simply that the money comes. He is pleased with the time that has been gained, with the abilities that he has used and developed, and filled with a natural creative zest. You have not completely approved of him, however. The taxes bothered you more this time because they fell just after your projects were finished. You have a nervous stomach, and I would have one too if I were forever taking sides against myself, and not approving whatever side I happen to be on at any given time. You fall into the habit of accepting the disapproval as fact, instead of realizing that it represents a feeling you have at any given time that may or may not be justified. You can kick a dog, and if you disapprove of your act, there is a justified disapproval of an act. You are having your physical problems because you are trying to leap over these limitations. That is, your body is saying, stop taking sides with yourself, or rather against yourself. Your spontaneity is more than able to bridge such gaps, but often you will disapprove of it if its suggestions go counter to negative ones concerning time that you have already given yourself. Your worth in what you are. Anyone's worth is in their own essence, that which you are will naturally produce acts or works of whatever kind. Your television news program, Rob noted on ABC, says it is now producing a series about your nuclear power and that of Russia. As in all such happenings, the worst probability is considered imaginatively, and the steps taken in the physical world using much energy and inventiveness, steps that are supposed to prevent this worst probability from occurring. Frightened people do not make wise decisions. In fact, they often take actions that inadvertently bring about the feared results, whatever the circumstances in the given case. Often, however, in their private worlds, people have their own versions of the feared probabilities, which they then run through the screens of their minds for good measure, so that they can take steps to avoid whatever catastrophe or near catastrophe is involved. In your own way, you often do the same thing. Sometimes your body bothers you, and it is saying, "You worry too much. You need to relax, so that I can relax." Instead, you then promptly worry about your body, concentrate upon its malfunctions, focus upon its problems. It is the overall approach to daily life that is important. The rules, again, appear too simple. Refuse to worry. Trust that you know your next projects. Allow them to happen, and forget all projected limited suppositions, such as "I will never have the time to do this or that," for those limitations do not exist in fact. In fact, period. The projects that you are meant to do can be done in your lifetime. The ones that are not done for a reason, because they do not fit in with your nature, or because they can be handled in a different way, or whatever. But you must trust that the spontaneous self understands the overall shape of your life and its creative context and contents. End of lecture. Ross said, "Okay, thank you." Say said, "I will hold another lecture whenever you want." You must understand, as certainly you do, the focus of your lives. Even before the psychic venture began, it was always your individual and joint work. In the beginning, writing and painting, you were both unconventional. On the exterior, you broke conventions, but you were still tainted by conventional ideas. Even without the psychic endeavor, you both would have been bothered if, say, Ruber succeeded as a writer of his own books, with no help from you of any kind, unless you succeeded as an artist. It was quite well known by both of you, however, that you disliked the marketplace. That dislike, as much as anything, made you unwilling to do what is required to be a selling artist. You felt differently about commercial art. You have always had the sex roles to contend with society to some degree. All of these did help contribute to Ruber's symptoms, particularly in the beginning. He was afraid you would be jealous, that others would say he dominated you, and to some extent, both of you felt the symptoms helped you save face in society. The symptoms also served later to provide you both with a sense of separation from the world, a reason for not doing what you thought you should do in conventional terms. Go out and spread the word, become television people, or lead groups, or give seminars, all things that largely went against the private portions of your nature, though otherwise you were both equipped to do so. You will be very wise to see the people you see, because you want to see them when you do, while never using Rubert's condition as an excuse for not doing what you do not want to do anyhow, or for not seeing people you do not want to see anyhow. You are, because you have chosen it, initiating a new way of life. You have made it work in many important fashions. And if you could stop disapproving of yourself a moment, you could see that this is quite true. There is no reason to feel ashamed of Rupert's condition. You have a lifetime of bliss behind you that you are in the process of discarding. The very creativity that surrounds you should be quite legitimate proof of the practical nature that results from our concepts. Now I bid you a fond good evening, with one footnote. I have given, I would say, 5 or 6 sessions at a minimum on the importance of touch or love-making. Its importance as nature expression, as a creative act, and this apart from its physical benefits, release of tensions, and spiritual enrichment. A fond good evening. Ralph said thank you, said good night.